What we've been doing is looking at maybe 40 schemes which are all at various scales about urban planning, about interventions in a city or making a new city or making a part of a new city. And what we the way we did it was really to run through all the projects with us all, group around the table, talk about them, read about them, and then decide whether they joined a shortlist or not. And we got it down to, I think, 8 and then to 6, quite satisfactorily, because I think the schemes that are good tend to come out and get you, tend to tell you they're good. Then we had the pleasure of being allowed to pick a winner, which was very enjoyable because there were some pretty strong schemes and therefore quite a lot of discussion about which one should actually win. But in the end, we were all of a mind, people in the room anyway, all agreed that that was the best project. What we were looking for, I think, is we're looking for something that goes beyond, let's say, what would have been built in the 19th century or the 20th century, or to put it another way, what would have been built in the 20th century, and unfortunately there's far too much planning that could have been built in the 19th century or even the 18th century. And what I suppose the judges are looking for is some kind of 21st century engagement with the urban environment, some new ideas about how we now relate to each other, how we want to use the city, what we've got at our disposal in terms of technology. All these things should influence something away from the sort of civic norms of the great 19th century and 20th century cities, and that's, we're looking for the new ideas. And what we saw today was some very exciting schemes with some very interesting approaches to particularly integrating landscape into the environment in a kind of seamless way. So it's not just a park and some buildings, but in a way in which the landscape invades people's lives, as it were, kind of gets right into their bloodstream. Similarly, we were very interested in one project which was how an airport might become part of a city, or how an airport might generate a city. And instead of just being a bunch of buildings clustered around making an airport, this had a very definite idea about generating the airport geometry from the city. And very, very, very strong project, and one wishes that airports were more like that. We've seen a very interesting air rights scheme over a freeway in America, where a combination of buildings and park have just been inserted in a strip, and it's the most unfussy scheme, really. Very strong ideas, very strongly interpreted into a scheme, and therefore we were swept along with it. We didn't feel it was a compromise scheme. It was a really strong scheme.
I think I probably had one of the most enjoyable mornings I've had in a long time. We've seen something like 29 schemes, quite a few railway schemes, which I'm very pleased to say. Certainly an out-and-out winner for me, and I'll come back to that in a second. But then mixed with landscape projects, urban projects, and you'll find in this process there always is an obvious winner. And for me, it's the Beijing. I mean, it really is a cathedral this time. Beautiful for people, cathedrals for people, everything I believe in, and very well executed by Foster's. And so congratulations to him. But then at the other end of the scale, we've seen beautiful bits of product design in Quebec, and we've given that an honourable mention. And then other worthy schemes in Australia, which I think are also memorable.